The women's movement was a little bit slowing down. I thought that we weren't really using the space at the UN that we could use to revitalize the women's movement. Now, where do they meet every year? What are the venues that the International Women's Movement has been using? One of them was here, right in New York, around the conference of the Commission on the Status of Women. This is really the place, and our committee is the place, where the International Women's Movement can meet every year. It's an open, democratic space. It's the place where every man, woman, boy, girl has the right to be here. We don't require membership to be here. And so I thought, this is an interesting place to try to rebuild and see what we can contribute, let's put it that way, to the International Women's Movement. So I joined the executive committee, and the funny story is that when they asked me what office I might want to take, they said, well, how about treasurer? I said, I don't know anything about numbers. How about secretary? I said, I don't think I can be there for every meeting. I said, how about vice chair? Because then I could just be there occasionally and fill in for the chair. So I thought it was kind of a low-profile job and something I could fit in with my work. As it turns out, vice chair is in line to become the next chair. So when they looked around for a new chair, they said, hey, you're next. And I said, oh, and that's something I had to think about in terms of time commitment, because it's pretty much a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the NGO, non-governmental, Committee on the Status of Women, New York. We also have a committee in Geneva and a committee in Vienna. And what do we do? As I say, when the UN has an International Women's Conference, they come to us and say, would you organize the NGOs in parallel to this women's conference? If there's a Fifth World Conference on Women, we're going to have to do a similar thing. Otherwise, our job is really to, as I said, be this open democratic space where they can interact with each other, NGOs can interact with each other, and where we facilitate their interaction with the UN. Now, strictly speaking, most of our members are ECOSOC accredited, which means simply that the UN has given us permission to be a part of their process. And why do they do that? They do that because they need expertise on women. They need expertise on sustainable development. And say, if we give you accreditation and that nice badge, would you come occasionally when we have major meetings and make a contribution to the UN? So our committee facilitates that process throughout the year. For example, in September, when the General Assembly meets, we make sure that our members know that it's going to be on non-communicable diseases this year. And then our members are a little bit advocates to make sure that women's issues are covered. When we have a Commission on Sustainable Development, when we have an Indigenous Peoples Forum, and all those major UN events, our members are attending and advocating for women's participation. We usually have members in the New York area as organizations, and then those organizations, of course, have branches in other countries and in other regions, so we end up having a pretty big outreach to the world through membership here in New York. But you can also be a member if you're in Durban or in Beijing. The core membership at one level is what we would call the ECOSOC accredited NGOs. So that means that you have gone through the process of being approved by the UN to participate in this process. We have another level of membership which is called DPI accredited, but it's a little bit complicated. You don't need to think about that, but what happens is people come to us, they want to be involved. The benefits of our membership are quite simple, related to communications. Our members then have the right to come to monthly meetings where we invite diplomats and experts from the UN to come and speak. We brief our members on critical issues. It gives you the right to be on a listserv, which alerts you, as I said, to particular events. Other than that, you don't have to be a member to participate in the NGO side events around the UN. 2 weeks, the Commission on the Status of Women meets. That's the United Nations Commission under the Economic Social Council, which is under the General Assembly. So it is a commission which oversees the progress of the world's women throughout the UN system, by governments, and that is the summit of the Ministry of Gender and Women's Affairs. That's when the official governments meet. And in parallel with that, that's when I said the International Women's Movement meets. That's mostly NGOs, people like Charlotte Bunch, human rights people, reproductive health people. We have people for girls' rights here. We have people interested in climate change. Anyone who wants to organize a parallel NGO side event comes to us, and we help to arrange that. The fabulous speakers that we bring, we had a consultation day. We organized one day ourselves as NGOs to launch these 2 weeks. And at that meeting, Michelle Bachelet, who is the Assistant Secretary General in charge of UN Women, spoke. We had this wonderful awardee from Bangladesh, Dr. Kosar Afsana, who has managed to reduce maternal mortality in a country that is one of the poorest in the world. And she used mobile technology, telephones, for health workers to do that. And we had this wonderful panel of speakers event. And then the other event is, of course, at the UN, where they have at least 4 or 5 different expert panels of speakers, and of course the ministers of gender equality. In last year, I think some first ladies also came. The wife of the Prime Minister of Turkey spoke very well on the situation of women in her region. And so it is the place where you find stellar talent, I would say, political talent and creative talent, sort of showcased for those 2 weeks.